Today we're going to be doing our Balance Council votes for the second Community Balance Council. And before we get started, I do want to say that I don't want to just be reverting the previous changes because that seems extremely counterproductive, because we'll never actually get anything changed because it'll just be going back and forth. But we'll see how the vote goes before I talk about that too much. I do have some opinions on the Balance Council, but we'll see how the second vote goes before I share those. However, I just want to say that I don't want to be reverting everything from the last one, but there are some things that, well, you'll see when we get there. Let's start off with the power increases. So these are cards that just need some more power to be viable. I think last time we got the ones I voted for, K1 Revenant and the Cleaver's Muscle, were quite good. I had a lot of fun with those guys. And if nothing gets changed for Syndicate, I was going to release the Syndicate Crime video today, but I figured we'll just wait till the patch and make sure the deck doesn't get changed. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll release that one. Or the Collusion one of the two. We'll see. But I want to make sure they don't get changed in like the patch in one day or whatever. So that's why that's not coming out yet. But we do have the decks. First up here, though, power increase. I may be biased. No, I don't want to type enter. I may be biased here, but I'm going to put the Great Oak at the top. Reason why for the Great Oak is the Great Oak is a card that it doesn't have that high of a ceiling. Like, it doesn't have an infinite ceiling, some cards do, right? Its ceiling's capped by 8, right? It's 8 plus 9. So if you have 8 units in a row, it's a 17, which is quite, it's good. But getting 8 units in a row is very unlikely. The only decks that well, the thing is, the only decks you really can consistently do that in are things like Dwarves and Symbiosis, and they just can't fit Great Oak because it's too expensive. So what I'd like to see for Great Oak is I'd like to see it get a power. Because what Great Oak does is it gives you a flexible choice, right? You have flexibility on its damage or its boost. And I think the floor is just too low because it's much more of a mid-range card. You play this in your deck where you think you're going to have situations where you'd like the damage or the points, and you generate a decent number of units. So I think an extra power would help him quite a bit, just because it increases the floor when you have like those 3 or 4 unit scenarios, and maybe that'll get you to play him in your deck. Because getting 6 damage off of him is actually kind of hard. I thought about decreasing the provisions instead, but I think Great Oaks gets the better with the power, just because it seems like a card that should be kind of expensive, because it is actually sometimes decent. But I think the extra power helping the floor out would be nice. Maybe this is just me liking Great Oak, but I've really tried to make this card work, and it just doesn't have what it takes right now. So I think a power or provision would be fine, but we're going to go with the power here because I think that would help it with what it does better, which is be like a mid-rangey card. And also makes it a little bit bigger of a finisher too. So that's the first one here. The second one, I am also biased towards this card, but I know this card is bad. There's no way you can argue about this one. Yennefer Conjurer. So Yennefer Conjurer used to be like a pretty commonly played card back when Carapace could be used on neutrals. Like, this was way, way back. But it was actually a pretty commonly used card then. You could have a lot of fun with her because you'd put her either with the immunity one before they gave it Veil, and then you'd put Veil on it. So I think she needs a power. Like, she has a lot of interesting things you can do with her. You can use her to set up Scorch, which doesn't see much play. Although let's see some. Use her to set up Geralt Igni, which is very fitting. If you don't need the initiative, that is. You can use her to set up something like, what's it called? Anyway, you can use her to set up a lot of stuff. You can use other cards to damage things down, help her out, and it's just really satisfying because her ability. The problem is there's like no way to keep her alive. You have to play like Wyvern Scale Shield and then play her after, or you have to do some other ridiculous setup like Open Crystal Skull. But I think just an extra base power would be a good help for her because she's just fallen behind where all the other engines are, and there's a lot of ways you could use her. And the fact that she's neutral is really helpful for this too. The Revenants, which was what I was thinking of. You can ping stuff down for the Revenants because the Revenants play a bunch of damage cards too, that you could potentially ping a whole bunch of things down towards one if you can hit it with Revenants or Forbidden Magic or something. So I think that would be quite cool. And she could see play there. She could see play in some of the other decks where you want to do damage, like Scoia'tael with Precision Strike. They sometimes play Scorch, or just in decks with Igni. Use her to hit things down prior to the turn, play Igni, stuff like that. So I think this would be a good one because she could be played in a bunch of different decks potentially, which would be fun. And the same thing for Great Oak. Great Oak can be played in a bunch of different decks, which is why like focusing the buffs on just things that could be played in multiple different ways. because Great Oak can be played in a bunch of different Scoia'tael decks. So that's the second one. And the last one here, kind of similar to Great Oak, is Hemdall. I think Hemdall should get a power. Look at him compared to Tyr. Tyr's got 9. Why can't Hemdall be a 9? Honestly, I think Hemdall could be even bigger than that, but Hemdall's just fallen off. Very similar to Great Oak, very similar card. It's either a finisher or you're playing as a mid-rangey tempo card, and it's just not good enough for that. Again, I could have done provisions on him, but I think it's more fitting for Hemdall to be a big card, like a big finisher, so I'd like to see him get a power. Just think to yourself, when have you ever picked... Well, we all got Magic Compass back to 9 this patch, right? When has Hemdall ever been the choice for Magic Compass? Like, I feel like it should at least be a viable choice off Magic Compass. But Svalblood's just better, which is annoying. But... yeah, I think Hemdall should use a power. Maybe he could see a little bit of play then, but might even buff him again. We'll see, but I'd like to see Hemdall get a buff. Moving on to the power decreases here. So these are the ones that theoretically should be getting nerfed. I'll be honest here. I can't really think of cards that need power nerfs. I can think of a lot of cards that could use power buffs, and a few that could use provision nerfs, but I can't think of many that need a power nerf. Like, unless you want to hit, like, Torres or Sov again, but you don't see those because Nilfgaard got annihilated last patch, and I really couldn't get any Nilfgaard decks to work after that. Like Albrecht Hyperthin's okay, but it was not great prior to the Nilfgaard nerf from the Balance Council, and every other Nilfgaard deck I tried, I just could not do anything with. So, I don't think that Torres will be on here. And Sov, I have no idea, because every single Skellige deck's a Golden Compass Necker deck. So... like, literally every single one. Except for one guy who tried using Druids. Like, literally every other Skellige deck I've played that I can think of is a Compass Necker deck. There might be a couple others, because I recorded the videos. There might be some in there, but once you get higher on the ladder, it's like only Compass Necker. So, I don't know about Sov, but I don't think he needs another nerf. The cards that I think we should do here, in my opinion, though, are a bunch of the disloyal ones. So... let's start off here. Willem, he does see play in Vi, but I think he should just be a 1 power. Willem's a wimp anyway. I'll put him at silver, because there's one actually I want to put above him, I think, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I will give him 2 votes. He should just be a 1. Willem's a wimp, and we'll play Thronebreaker. I think he is, but I think he should be 1. Just make him more of a option. Especially compared to Last Wish, like, I think this should happen. The other one, then, is going to be an actual interesting card, Rainfarn. So I think he's going to be the gold one for the 3 votes here for me. The fact that he gives your opponent a 7 body is kind of obnoxious. Yes, he has an extremely high ceiling if everything is working exactly how you want it to, but a lot of the times with Toussaint, it does not work how you want it to, and you're giving them a 6 to... because they'll split their units up, right? You'll boost like one of their cards really big, and then another one really big. Maybe they move one. Maybe you have to kill one of them. Maybe they kill it, which is extremely unlikely. But if they're playing monsters or something, they can consume it. So I think giving him a little bit less base power will help a lot in those situations where you're not getting exactly what you want with Toussaint. So I think we'll be doing this one. Toussaint is an interesting deck that it's not bad. Like, it's one of the better Nilfgaard decks now, since all the good ones sort of got nerfed into oblivion. But yeah, I think this one makes sense. And the last one is very similar, and it's going to be Scapegoat. You do sometimes see Scapegoat in Bounty, but the thing with Scapegoat is it's a 2. Like, it gives you the bounty points back, right? So in Bounty, it's fine. But here's the thing. I think if we made this 1 power, you might be able to just use it in general Syndicate decks as a coin generator, right? You just play this, your opponent gets a point, and you get 7 coins. I think that's interesting. At 1 power, it's much more tolerable to give them a 1-point guy and get the coins if you're not planning on killing it. So I think that could be interesting to make this more flexible instead of just in Bounty. Maybe it's too good, but I mean, like, Bounty is a pretty good deck, so maybe we shouldn't do this one. But honestly, I couldn't think of too many power nerfs, and other than like Kraken and Lara, which I voted for last time, I don't think got changed. I think we'll do Scapegoat this time. I think this might have a better chance, and I like how it's flexible for different types of Syndicate decks potentially. Like, if you think about it, if you went and you're playing a crime deck, you play like Smuggle and stuff. Smuggle, and since the what's it called? Open Sesame got nerfed. Now you play the Swindle, I think. I was playing this card yesterday. How do I not remember his name? Yeah, it's Swindle. You play like this for the coins. I think it'd be interesting if you could use Scapegoat to get the coins, like this. Because some decks don't play the Crown Splitters, so the Crown Splitters just isn't great. But I think it'd be interesting if Scapegoat is a coin generation option with a bounty payoff with just like a ping damage. You can get like a Savvy Huckster or something, who also might deserve a buff. But I think having this would be interesting, and you might see it outside of bounty. And even in bounty, I don't see Scapegoat at all. Let's be honest. Like, I don't see people playing Scapegoat. So I think this would be a good one. Moving on to the provision increases. All right, I don't want to do this, but I think we have to. Compass is ridiculous. Why is Compass 9? I think this was pushed through by some streamers or something. But here's the thing. Compass Necker is extremely, extremely good. Necker, Gold Necker that is supposed to have 9 or less provision cards in your deck. This just lets you make things that are more than 9. Sure, it's hilarious to make combi. Sure, the deck's actually pretty fun to play for being a Golden Necker deck, at least in my opinion. But it's a heavy control deck, and Compass just gives you literally anything you could ever want. And I'm not sure it deserves to be at 9 provisions. The Compass, its card's just too good in Golden Necker. So I understand it. It's a fun card to use. In my opinion, it doesn't deserve to be at 9 provisions, though. So we're putting that there. I can see some disagreement. That's fine. Like, I really don't want to be undoing things, but I think this is just too good at 9. And the fact that you don't see anything else in Skellige because of how strong this is, this makes it a problem to me. The other one here is going to be pretty similar. I think you all know where this is going. Why is this 5? I don't know. This card is ridiculous. At 5, it completely undid the whole Muted Generator nerf last patch because they gained provisions for putting this back in their deck. Muted Generator is just, this makes Muted Generator twice as bad because instead of getting 5 points a turn, you're getting 10 when you play this. So, say you're gonna pass on 6 or pass on 7. They play Muted Generator, they play some random card, you're like, okay, I'll pass on 7. They'll get like 15 points of carryover, 10 points of carryover. They play Reaver Scout, and they get double that many, especially if they play the second one. On the other hand, it just synergizes too well with stuff like Sentry Royal Guards, with all the other 5 provision stuff you're playing in Muted Generator. And it just makes it this card exploits Muted Generators so well that it's kind of ridiculous. And why, and this is the worst thing to me, why did this get buffed the same time Slave Driver got nerfed? It doesn't make sense. Slave Driver makes a 1-power copy. Sure, it's a deploy. But when have you ever played Reaver Scout and not immediately given it Zeal? That requires a leader charge, sure. But when haven't you used a leader charge on the thing you made from Slave Driver as an Imperial Marine? Right? Like, this and Slave Driver, to me, should always be pretty much the same provisions. Yes, Slave Driver is a little good as a 5. Yeah, Slave Driver probably deserves to be a 6, but so does this. So I don't know why this is 5. And everyone who argued with me that Northern Realms was a trash faction last patch and we shouldn't nerf Muted Generator at all. Northern Realms is the highest win rate faction in the game at the top level. It's also the most played faction in the game. So I think this deserves to be nerfed. Like, I don't think this should be 5. I don't want to just undo these things though. Like, I'd rather nerf different things that we buffed, but this just, I tried this out a whole bunch too to see if it was too good, and yeah, it was too good. There was really no trouble at all getting to 20 to 500 Northern Realms. You just play Muted Generator Necker with this. It's ridiculous. And the last one here, speaking of it some more, it's going to be the Muted Generator again. Like I said in the last one, this probably deserves to be 8. What does this do for you? You play this, if you think about it this way, if you don't Heat Wave or remove the Muted Generator, how often do you win the game? Think about it. If you play like a Devotion deck, you probably realize this. But when they Muted Generator, you are forced to do one of two things. You're forced to just give up round 1 on 7 and hope your long round can beat their boosted long round. That's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is try and win the round 1 and then hope your really strong short round 2 can beat what they have in their hand. Is that fun? No. Like, I don't see... It's 7 provisions. Like, there are a lot of 7 provision cards and 8 provision cards that are worse than this. Like, a lot worse. Think about it. When was the last Northern Realms deck you played that didn't have Muted Generator in it? The Shoop decks play it because they have Erland. All the Golden Necker decks play it because you're boosting your 5s and getting so much value out of it, and you can search it and tutor it off of Necker. The only thing that doesn't play this is Knights, which I haven't seen in like a month. And sometimes if you're playing like something fun, like Amphibious Assault Siege doesn't play this, but I haven't seen that very much either, just because once you climb the ladder, it just turns all into Golden Necker decks, which is extremely annoying. But I think Muted Generator is just too cheap. It's too cheap. If you play it, then you play 3 cards, right? So you win with, like, they have 7, you have 6, right? You play 3 cards. You get 15 points of carryover in your deck. Is that really a 7 Persian card worth of value? And then if they keep playing you in, like, ridiculous amounts, and you can always play it as a engine, a 5-point a turn engine. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, then it's 5 each time. Although you probably play a Reaver Scout in there, so it's like 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5. I think it's just too good. And the fact that the buff to Scouts made that this nerf was meaningless was extremely annoying to me. So I think this should be an 8 regardless. It's just too good at what it does. And the fact that there's pretty much nothing else in Northern Realms. Like, what do? They have Necker with Muted Generator. Sometimes you see Shoop that has Muted Generator. Rarely you see Amphibious Assault and Siege because they got buffed, but they don't have this. So I think this should be an 8. If Reaver Scouts could go back to the 6, though, I can kind of see this at 7, which is why it's at the bottom. And lastly, we're going to do the provision decrease. To me, this is the most fun category, the buffing ones, because I think there's the most interesting things here. And one card I do want to see is good old Captain Yago. So Captain Yago, I've been playing a fair bit of Syndicate lately, trying to get some interesting decks out. And I think he's just too expensive. His power value, like, when you play Yago, it's usually not bad. Like, usually you can get 5 or 6 coins back with him reliably, but that doesn't make him worth 11 provisions. And think about Syndicate. Like, does anyone play Jackpot? No, this is a Jackpot card, so buffing this might help Jackpot too. So I think this would be a good one to buff. I really want to see him go down to 10. At 10, it's much more manageable to fit him into decks and stuff. So I really want to see him go down to 10. Also, why isn't he a Tide Cloak? I know it's not getting changed, but I feel like maybe lore-wise he's not a Tide Cloak, but it's kind of weird he doesn't have a gang on him. I thought about putting him Collusion, that's why I thought of it. So I think he deserves to go down to a 10 version card. I think he's much more fair at 10. Like, the only time you can get ridiculous Captain Yagos is like you jackpot Akarantia, spend all the coins, Yago back, but that doesn't really happen. If it did, it's a huge amount of setup, so it should be rewarded. I just think that making him cheaper helps him fit into decks better, and then maybe you can get those more reliable, like 5 or 6 coin Yagos. A 5 or 6 coin Yago is not bad, right? Like, you play him, use your Akarantia maybe, and then you play him, you get 6 coins back. 7 with profit 6. It's not amazing, but at 10 provision, it's not that bad either. Like, it's not the worst thing. It just wouldn't be nice for me cheap enough to see play. I tried him out a fair bit, and he just never... It was too hard to fit him in decks, really. I think he deserves a provision decrease. Next up, this is going to be a pretty random one, but it blows my mind that no one plays Knighthood. Like, not that they're dumb, more like Knighthood is extremely expensive. Compared to Royal Decree, right? This is limited, and it can only play Knights. Sure, it has the boost, but if you look at the Knights, like if you look at the Knights for Northern Realms, so you get Northern Realms here. What do you want to play? Like, you can't play Onsace. You can Vandergrift in the Knight deck. Selkirk is usually, sometimes Dawnmere and Maiden Shield. The most important ones you want to tutor out of your deck are usually like Maiden Shield and Vandergrift, right? And sometimes Selkirk, if you're playing it. Those all get no boosts off of the Knighthood. Same with Amphibious Assault. But if we look at the other Knights, these get you boosted by the number of Knights on your board. I think they just CDPR when they made this card overestimated how many knights you'd have on your board when you play this. Like, you don't get that many knights. Like, you get like 4 or 5 at max. So I really think that knighthood should be a bit cheaper. Like, maybe at 8 it sees play. The thing is, the knight decks don't play knighthood, where it should be playable there. So I really think knighthood deserves a buff. I think it's an interesting card about when you'd play it versus when you'd play your knights. Like, you play it early, so you get less boost, but you get the card you want. If you play it later, so you get a little bit of boost, maybe trigger your grace right away. I just want to see knighthood a little better. And I think the only thing we can do is get a Persian decrease. So I think that would be a nice one. Maybe you could do something with that in Northern Realms then. With this at 8 and Amphibious Assault at 13, maybe you could do something with this. Is this tutoring any of your knights? Like, maybe you just play Vandergrift and Selkirk in a deck, and then you have a knighthood to find them. With maybe like a 1 of Redanian Knight as a 4 Persian card or something. I just think this would be interesting to have knighthood be cheaper. I think it should be a viable tutor. I'll say this. In my opinion, I think all of the faction-specific tutors should be viable to help devotion decks, right? That's just what I think. All the faction-specific tutors should be viable, and knighthood just isn't, so I think we need to buff it. That is a simple version. Should have started with that. And the last one here is another Northern Realms card, and that's Deathmold. Deathmold never got reworked, which was a little unfortunate, but I think he needs a buff. Mages are not amazing. The only thing you really do with mages is Alumni. Alumni is a little bit better now that all the Nilfgaard locks got nerfed, but it's still really vulnerable to control, and there's not really a place for Deathmold. Like, here's the thing. There's 2 things we can do with Deathmold. We either make Deathmold really cheap, like a 6 for 6 with a boost effect, or make Deathmold really big, like an 8 for 8 with a boost effect. I'm in favor of the cheap one, because charts being cheap gives you more deck building flexibility, and I think maybe allowing Deathmold to fit in there, maybe boost all of your meditating mages if you want to go for that or something, would be more interesting. I honestly want him to go down to like 6 provisions, but we'll start here. I think he deserves a buff. Like, maybe this doesn't matter that much. Maybe people only want to buff cards that make them OP or extremely viable, but I want to see Deathmold just like playable. It's kind of where I want to see, but we won't talk too much about overall feelings on the balance council, but this is what we're going to go with. Power increase, Oak, Yennefer, Conjurer, and Hemdall. Power decrease, Rainfarn, Willem, and Scapegoat. Provision increase, Compass, Reaper Scout, Muted Generator, and we'll decrease the provisions on Yago, Knighthood, and Deathmold. That's what I think. Let me know what you guys think. To be honest here, at the very end, I guess I'll throw it in, all the Nilfgaard nerfs were completely over the top. Like, Nilfgaard as a faction, maybe I'm just bad, but I don't think I'm that bad where I can't make Nilfgaard decks viable. The Nilfgaard nerfs hurt so much that I really just couldn't ladder with Nilfgaard this season. Like, I couldn't find a deck that was consistently good enough to ladder with, which to me is a problem, but I don't want to just revert everything here, so I'm willing to accept that I might just not be a good Nilfgaard player and that I haven't found the right deck yet. But I don't know, man. Nilfgaard. I feel like if we just buff anything, Nilfgaard's going to get immediately nerfed anyway, but what are you going to do? So that is the deck. Not the deck. This is the standard outro. That is the changes we're going to vote for. Let me know what you guys are voting for. Let me know if I changed your mind on anything, and we'll see it in the next one. That'll be it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. And you can check out some more videos over here. And thanks for watching.